All right, a super busy week on Capitol Hill. The House of Representatives passed an avalanche of measures dealing with government funding, paying for the war in Iran, the Save America Act, even banning lawmakers from trading stocks. But that doesn't mean that any of it is remotely close to actually becoming law. Chief Congressional Correspondent Chad Pergram breaks it all down for us.
Molly, let's start with avoiding a government shutdown. The House okayed a plan to run the government until December 4th, but it needs 60 votes to break a filibuster. The funding deadline is October 1st, so avoiding a shutdown is far from certain. They need Democrats to bust that filibuster, but so far Democrats aren't budging. Senate Majority Leader John Thune may bypass Democrats using a filibuster-proof method, but that may be a tactic compelling Democrats to come to the table. House Republicans did approve various versions of the Save America Act. They attached it to the annual defense policy bill and intend to latch it to an eventual budget plan. But the Senate lacks the votes to approve the Save America Act, so its adoption is doubtful for now. Then we have a bill banning House members from trading stocks. However, the Senate has little appetite for that. Glued to that bill is a mandate for voter ID. Even that could be a poison pill in the Senate. Finally, there are two efforts to fund the Pentagon and pay for the conflict in Iran. There's the defense policy bill, which Senate Democrats recently blocked, and the framework for the budget. But this is just a blueprint. No actual money. In fact, dollars for the military may not even come until December, if then. So lots of House action as lawmakers fled D.C. for 5 weeks, but none of this is close to becoming law. On Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
Always grateful to the brilliant Chad Pergram. For more on what is happening on Capitol Hill with House Budget Committee Chairman Jodey Arrington now. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Chad broke it down for us. There was a lot of action on the House side, but we're not sure it's going to lead to any sort of dramatic conclusions. I want to start with what he touches on first, which is the government shutdown. How likely do you think that is? Is that something we should be paying a lot of attention to, or do we have some weeks in time for that to offer some clarity on that? Your thoughts?
If past is prologue, Molly, we're going to have another shutdown because Democrats are running one play with one objective, and that is to resist Republicans and obstruct the president at all fronts and at all cost, even if it cost TSA agents, Border Patrol agents, Coast Guardsmen, and even holding the American people and their security hostage just to sow chaos, just to project dysfunction to the voters and lay the blame on Republicans leading up to November. That is a sad scenario. I don't see it changing. And that's why we used budget reconciliation to break that stronghold and that obstruction, to open up Homeland Security, to fund ICE and CBP. Couldn't get a single Democrat vote, by the way, to fund ICE and CBP. And so this is their MO. That's why we're using budget reconciliation. We're doing it for emergency funding. We're doing it to open up the government. It's not just like we did in the first one to provide historic tax relief, spending cuts, commitments to opening up domestic energy. Those are great and good, but we got to govern. We got to fund our troops. And we have an historic generational opportunity to put election integrity reform in Budget Reconciliation 3.0 before the November election. And I believe we're going to do it.
Yeah, and I know, Democrats withholding money on certain things, as you mentioned, the military. That's to some extent related to the Iran war. But Republicans also have some strategies involved. They've got the Save America Act that comes through the House with flying colors, but stalls in the Senate. But one of the interesting things that Chad pointed out there is that the voter ID is glued to the stocks bill. Now, the stocks bill has been one that both sides have been trying to get passed for a long time, but the voter ID add-on may be what ultimately means it can't get through the Senate. Your thoughts on sort of that back and forth and the weight being used?
Well, Molly, I can't imagine any member of Congress not supporting a ban on stock trading, closing a loophole so that members of Congress can't game the system and pad their wallets with insider information. We know that's a problem, and we ought to give the American people confidence that their elected officials are thinking about them and their interests. We should also put the most basic safeguard in place, photo voter ID, to give confidence in election integrity so that the American people can trust that the outcome of our elections are fair and honest and reliable. And that's not just for the upcoming elections. That's so they have confidence in their government, so that the consent of the people is legitimate, and so that we have a functioning democracy. So I think the rejection in the House by the Democrats of this combination of voter ID plus stock trading ban was more about, sadly, the voter ID. They didn't want a voter ID. They can't explain why they oppose what is an 83% measure supported by Americans across the political spectrum. But we only got, I think, 13 Democrats in the House. That's a sad commentary on the state of affairs in the Democrat Party. These were simple measures that would restore public confidence in our institutions, and we desperately need that right now.
Great highlighting there of that small bit of bipartisan overlap, if you will. Congressman Arrington, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate you joining us on this Saturday morning.